He thought she was just a joke. Too young, too weak, too black to matter. In front of thousands, he laughed until the bell rang. What happened next silenced the arena and made headlines around the world. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. This is a joke, right? You expect her to fight me? Those were the exact words that came tumbling out of Dax, the hammer. Holland's mouth, loud, arrogant, and full of mockery. Towering over 6 feet tall, with a chest like a tank and a record of 28 knockouts in 30 fights, Dax was the undefeated face of professional boxing. Cameras loved him, crowds screamed his name, and every opponent he faced ended up eating canvas. Before the bell rang twice, when his eyes fell on the girl standing across the ring from him. A girl barely 5 feet tall, dressed in second-hand gear with scuffed-up shoes. He couldn't contain his laughter. The arena joined in. Phones went up, recording what everyone thought would be a disaster. A joke. A public embarrassment. Amara Bell didn't flinch. She stood silently in her corner, her chin high, her eyes locked on Dax's. Her gloves looked a little too big, and her stance wasn't picture-perfect. But there was something in her eyes, something cold and steady. Something that refused to blink. No one in the arena knew who she was. Just a name on the undercard, a late replacement for a fighter who'd backed out last minute. The promoters brought her in just to keep the show running. A 16-year-old girl from Chicago's South Side? Against Dax Holland? It was supposed to be a joke, but what they didn't know was that Amara Bell had trained her whole life for this moment. Amara was 5 when her father first took her to a gym. It was dusty, cramped, and always smelled of sweat and old leather. But to Amara, it was home. Her father, Marcus Bell, had been a promising fighter in his day, until a torn rotator cuff ended his career before it began. He poured every bit of his knowledge into Amara, teaching her the art of boxing with patience, grit, and discipline. While other kids played with dolls, Amara practiced footwork. While her classmates spent weekends at the mall, Amara ran drills, hitting the bag until her knuckles bled. She wasn't interested in fame. She wasn't after fortune. She was chasing legacy. The Bell name had never reached the top. But she would change that. Back in the ring, the bell finally rang. Round 1. Dax came out laughing. "You sure you don't want to sit this one out, sweetheart?" Amara didn't answer. She just moved, light on her feet, weaving under his massive swings. The crowd chuckled again, entertained by the absurd sight of this girl dodging punches from a man twice her size. But then something happened. Dax missed. Again and again, his grin faded slightly. He threw a jab. Amara slipped it. A hook. Amara ducked. The sound of leather missing flesh began to echo louder than the crowd's laughter. She wasn't here to survive. She was here to win. Round 3. The audience had stopped laughing. Amara's strategy was simple. Break him down. She'd studied every fight Dax had ever had. She knew his arrogance made him sloppy after 2 rounds. She knew he didn't like body shots. She knew his left knee, injured in a fight 2 years ago, was still a weak spot. She went to work. Tap. Tap. Boom. Body shot. Jab. Pivot. Counter. She didn't need to land haymakers. She just needed to make him move. Make him tire. Make him angry. And it worked. Dax grew wild, swinging like he always did when he felt his ego bruising. But every time he overcommit, Amara slipped in and tagged him. Round 6. His face was red. His breathing heavy. His left eye was starting to swell. The crowd was on its feet now, chanting, screaming. Not for Dax, but for her. Round 8. Final round. Dax rushed her, desperate to end it. He swung hard, and for the first time all night, Amara stepped in rather than out. Her left jab cracked into his nose. A right hook caught his chin. He staggered. Then came the uppercut. Sweet. Clean. Brutal. Dax hit the mat like a felled tree. The arena exploded. People didn't know what they were witnessing. A miracle? A glitch in the Matrix? Or maybe, just maybe, the arrival of something new. The referee raised her arm. The cameras flashed. Amara Bell, 16 years old, from the South Side, stood in the middle of the ring, victorious. Her gloves were still oversized, her shoes still worn out, but no one laughed now, because that night, under the lights, Amara Bell didn't just beat the undefeated champ, she shocked the world. This all started at a charity boxing event in Chicago. meant to raise money for underprivileged youth. The gym was packed with energy, flashing cameras, booming music, and rows of local celebrities, athletes, and donors. Banners hung high, reading "Fighting for the Future," while kids from struggling neighborhoods circled the ring wide-eyed, some holding homemade signs, others just thrilled to be there. The event was designed to give young fighters a platform, a moment in the spotlight. Nothing too serious, a few light exhibition rounds, some speeches, and photo ops. Then came the announcement that would change everything. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise main event tonight. The MC grinned wide. Stepping into the ring, the undefeated heavyweight, the one and only, Dax the Hammer Holland. The crowd erupted. Dax stood up, sunglasses on indoors, grinning ear to ear as he made his way toward the ring, eating up the attention. He thought he was there to give a short speech, shake a few hands, maybe throw a staged punch for the cameras. What he didn't know was that the organizers, eager for media attention, had slipped in a twist. A real, unscripted exhibition. Match. 3 rounds. No headgear. Gloves on. And his opponent, a 16-year-old girl from the South Side. And facing Dax tonight, representing the community gym, give it up for Amara Bell. A moment of silence followed. Then laughter. People looked around like they'd misheard. Cameras panned from Dax's towering frame to the young girl walking slowly to the ring. Amara was small, maybe 5 feet 1 inch in her boots, with thin arms, a tight braid, and a pair of gloves clearly too big for her wrists. Her gear was mismatched and faded, her shoes duct-taped at the toes. She looked like someone's little sister, not a fighter. Dax raised an eyebrow, then smirked. "Fine," he said, pulling off his watch and strapping on his gloves. "But don't blame me if she runs home crying." The crowd chuckled, eating it up. This was going to be easy entertainment, they thought. A puffed-up pro playing nice with a neighborhood kid. Nothing more, but Amara didn't flinch. She climbed through the ropes without a word. No theatrics, no fear. She bounced lightly on her feet, eyes locked on Dax, her coach, her older brother. Malik leaned over the ropes and grabbed her hand. "They don't believe in you, sis," he whispered. "But I do. Show them what the world's been ignoring." What the world didn't know was that Amara Bell wasn't new to pressure. Her life had been one long fight. Their mother died when Amara was 8. Their father left a year later, and it was Malik who stepped up, giving up college, picking up extra shifts, and raising his baby sister with discipline and love. But the only way to keep Amara off the streets was to keep her moving. So he took her to the local gym, the same one their mom once trained at back in the day. Amara took to it like she was born for it. Every day after school, she trained. Skipped parties, skipped sleep, studied footage of pros, worked her footwork like it was choreography, shadowboxed in front of mirrors until it became second nature. She didn't fight with anger. She fought with purpose. Back in the ring, the bell rang. Dax came forward with a lazy grin, throwing a light jab like he was playing with a kid. Amara slipped under it like it was smoke. Then she pivoted. Quick, fluid, almost too fast to follow. She didn't throw a punch. Not yet. She just read him. Dax laughed again. "You gonna throw anything, or just dance?" Then he lunged. Amara darted to the side and let his punch fly wide. A quick tap to his ribs. Then back out. Fast. Sharp. Now he frowned by the end of the first round. His smirk had faded. Amara had landed more clean shots than he expected. She wasn't trying to knock him out. She was exposing him. His laziness. His overconfidence. She turned every second into a lesson. Round 2. Dax came in harder. Tried to trap her. But Amara kept moving, dipping, weaving, punishing him with speed and accuracy. She didn't fight like a child. She fought like someone who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. People stopped laughing. Phones came out. Whispers turned into cheers. The energy shifted. The girl wasn't supposed to survive round 1. But she was dominating. By the final bell, Dax was heaving, sweat pouring down his face. Amara? She stood tall, barely winded, gloves still high, eyes still focused. When the referee raised her hand, the gym exploded, and no one expected it. No one could believe it. A 16-year-old girl from the South Side had just outboxed a professional in front of hundreds of doubters, not with power, but with skill. That night, Amara Bell didn't just win a match, she made the world look twice. And remember her name. Ding. The bell rang. Dax, the hammer, Holland strutted out of his corner like he owned the ring. His gloves hung low, his movements lazy, casual. His face wore that same smug grin, the one he always wore before humiliating someone. Only this time, he thought it would take less effort than usual. Just a few swings to entertain the crowd. Then let the poor girl off easy. He threw a wide right hook. More performance than power. But Amara didn't flinch. She ducked, slipped, slid past it like a shadow. Then he followed with a left. Again, too wide, too slow. Amara moved under it, light on her feet, calm as ever. She wasn't reacting. She was predicting. She read every motion in his shoulders, his hips, the tension in his legs. She moved, like she'd been here 1,000 times. The crowd, who had started the match laughing and pointing, began to shift in mood. A few people lowered their phones. A few whispers rippled through the front row. Then it happened. Smack. A sharp, clean left jab from Amara cracked right into Dax's chin. Dax stumbled back a step. His head snapped, his body rocked. He blinked, stunned. That wasn't part of the plan. That wasn't a fluke either. That was precision, speed, skill. The Jim fell into stunned silence for a split second. Was that real? Did that little girl just rock the hammer? Dax's smirk vanished. His posture changed. In more playtime that he charged forward, this time with anger. His pride had been hit harder than his chin. He started throwing real punches, short, quick jabs meant to shut her down. But Amara was faster. She ducked low, then pivoted around his right side, delivering a counter-punch straight to his ribs. Thud. Dax winced. That one hurt. He lashed out with a hook. Mississippi. Amara stepped aside again. Another jab, this time a double. One to the jaw. One to the cheekbone. Pop. Pop. The gasps grew louder. In the crowd, Malik watched with arms crossed, nodding slowly. He'd seen this side of Amara 100 times in practice. But seeing it here, on this stage, against a seasoned pro, was like watching a storm unfold in silence. By the end of round 1, things had changed. Dax was breathing heavier. Amara wasn't. The crowd, once mocking her, now sat on the edge of their seats. People started standing. Phone cameras were back up, but this time, they weren't recording a joke. They were witnessing a moment. The bell rang again. Round 2. Dax stormed forward without hesitation, swinging with power now. No more dancing. No more testing the waters. He was going in for the knockout. But power meant nothing without precision. And Amara? She was ice. She let him swing, then punished him for every mistake. Every wild hook met air. Every missed uppercut was met with a jab. And when he tried to corner her, she pivoted with footwork so smooth it made seasoned trainers in the audience shake their heads in disbelief. Smack. Smack. Thud. Body shots. Chin taps. More jabs. She was dissecting him. Not with size. Not with strength. With mastery. By now, the crowd had flipped entirely. People were on their feet, shouting her name. Imdare. 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 It echoed off the gym walls, loud and rising. Even the event organizers, who had planned this as a feel-good gimmick, were staring in shock. Dax, drenched in sweat, threw one last desperate right cross. Amara ducked low, then spun up with a left hook. Boom. It connected cleanly. Dax's legs wobbled. The ref jumped between them, signaling the end of the round. In his corner, Dax sat down hard. He wasn't smiling anymore. His chest rose and felt like he'd just gone 10 rounds. His trainer shouted at him to get it together, but the fear in Dax's eyes said it all. He had come in thinking this was a PR stunt, but he was the one being exposed. Across from him, Amara stood calmly. No heavy breathing, no nerves, just laser focus. Malik leaned in, tapped her shoulder, and said with a grin, "Now you've got him scared. Finish the story." And the crowd? They were no longer watching for fun. They were watching history. In the 3rd round, Dax went full power. The bell rang, and the tension in the room snapped like a taut wire. This was it. Dax, the hammer, Holland had had enough of playing nice. No more smirks. No more half-hearted swings. His jaw was sore. His ribs ached. His ego, the very thing that built his name, was bruised in front of a crowd that once worshipped him. Now they were chanting her name. He charged. With all the force of a cornered animal, Dax drove Amara backward, punching in savage bursts. A brutal hook to the body, a hammering jab, an uppercut that barely missed her chin. The crowd gasped, the rhythm of their cheers breaking. Thud, thud, cracked. He had her in the corner. Nowhere to run, nowhere to pivot. He rained down punches like a man trying to erase what had just happened in the last 2 rounds. Sweat flew from their bodies. The ring shook. For a moment, it looked like she might go down. Amara's arms absorbed the blows, her small frame bending but not breaking. She ducked, blocked, rolled, covering up as fists slammed into her guard. From the outside, it looked like survival mode. The kind of barrage that breaks most fighters. But Amara wasn't most fighters. She was calculating. Breathing. Waiting then. Like lightning striking steel, she moved. Amara slipped under Dax's overhand right, twisted her hips, and slid out of the corner so fast the cameras barely caught it. Dax turned, just in time to catch the start of her answer. Jab. Uppercut. Right cross. Bam. 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 Each punch landed like a thunderclap. The final cross snapped Dax's head back with terrifying force. His body froze. His legs wobbled. Then they buckled. Dax Holland hit the canvas. The champ. The showman. The undefeated machine, lying flat on his back, eyes dazed, arms sprawled. For a full second, the entire gym went silent. Mouths hung open. The crowd stared, stunned by what they'd just witnessed. Then, the eruption, the noise, burst like a dam breaking. Screams, cheers, stomps on the bleachers. Phones flew up, recording the fall of a giant and the rise of a legend. The referee moved in, his hand slicing the air. 1, 2, 3. Dax groaned, turning to his side. His gloves scraped at the mat. His muscles trembled. He tried to lift himself, but it was no use. He wasn't just hurt. He was humiliated. Every bit of arrogance, every dismissive laugh, every mocking comment he'd made in the first round now echoed back at him louder than the count. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was the pro. She was the girl with duct-taped shoes. But she earned this, and he knew it. Across the ring, Amara stood. Tall. Her chest rose and fell in quiet rhythm. Her gloves dropped to her sides. Her posture relaxed but firm. She didn't raise her arms. Didn't pump her fists. She didn't need to. The victory was clear. She didn't just knock out Dax. She dismantled him. With discipline. With grace. With skill honed through years of sweat, sacrifice, and silence. Malik leaned over the ropes, tears shining in his eyes. He didn't shout. He didn't scream. He just whispered, "You did it." When the referee called the match, the gym exploded again. Reporters surged toward the ring. Kids climbed onto chairs, chanting her name. Grown men wiped tears from their faces. Amara Bell, the quiet 16-year-old girl from the South Side, had just done what no professional had done before. And she didn't just win. She proved she belonged. She didn't taunt Dax. She didn't gloat. She simply turned toward. Her brother smiled faintly and nodded, as if to say, "That's what we trained for." That night, in a gym meant to raise money for kids like her, Amara Bell gave them more than hope. She gave them a hero. The video went viral overnight. Within hours, clips of Amara Bell dropping Dax the hammer Holland were everywhere. On Instagram Reels, TikTok montages, news broadcasts, even primetime sports talk shows. Her face was frozen in that moment of calm triumph, standing tall while the once mighty champ lay crumpled at her feet. Headlines blazed across the internet. Teen girl floors pro boxer in shocking upset. 16-year-old Amara Bell silences. The boxing world. Underdog Amara Bell makes history in charity ring, but it wasn't just the knockout that captivated people. It was everything around it. The way she entered the ring with zero fanfare. The way she fought with poise and intelligence, and the way she didn't gloat when the final punch landed. Amara Bell had done the unthinkable, and she did it. With grace. Within a day, world champions were tweeting their support. Female athletes from every corner of the sports world reposted the video with captions like, "Strength isn't always loud. This is why we keep pushing." Amara Bell just changed the game. Even celebrities and talk show hosts began weighing in. Analysts broke down her footwork frame by frame. Veteran coaches praised her timing and composure. And kids across the country, especially girls, found a new role model to look up to. And Dax, he disappeared from the spotlight in no interviews. No social media posts. No explanations. The once boastful champion, who had made a career of humiliating others, couldn't bear the blow to his ego. Every time he turned on the TV or opened his phone, there she was, Amara Bell, the teenager who exposed him, not just physically, but mentally. He had walked into that charity event expecting a photo op. Instead, he walked out a meme, and the world moved on without him. But Amara didn't stop. She went right back to the gym the very next morning. No press tour, no flashy contracts, just her and Malik running drills like they always had, because that fight wasn't her finish line, that it was her beginning. Amara started getting invites to train with top coaches. Promoters reached out, offering deals. Sponsors flooded her inbox. But she stayed grounded, moving at her own pace, choosing only what aligned with her values. In the ring, she kept winning amateurs, regionals, nationals. One bout at a time. She built her record with discipline, not drama. A year later, she made history again. At just 17, Amara Bell became the youngest female boxer ever to sign a professional contract with a major promotion. The same media that had once laughed at her now honored her with awards, interviews, and magazine covers. But she still spoke with the same quiet strength. When asked in one interview how she stayed calm during the fight with Dax, she paused, then said, "I wasn't fighting for fame. I was fighting for every girl who's ever been laughed at, for every kid who's been told they're not enough. I didn't go in there to prove them wrong. I went in there to prove us right." Those words echoed far beyond the boxing world. Teachers printed them and posted them in classrooms. Coaches used them in locker room speeches. Girls across the country wore them on t-shirts. Because in a world that often overlooks the quiet ones, Amara had reminded everyone what real power looks like. Because sometimes strength doesn't look like muscle. It doesn't shout, it doesn't flex, and it doesn't always win with a roar. Sometimes strength walks into the ring quietly, dodges every doubt, and leaves with the world's respect. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more real stories that inspire, and remember this: never underestimate the quiet ones. Because one day, they just might knock the world off its feet.